Welcome to the live stream. We're here to talk about
Okay, that's enough.
Okay. We're here to talk about better HVAC. That's a concept that's been kicking around for a couple years. And my two friends here on the podcast. This isn't a podcast, it's a live stream. My two friends here on the live stream, Ben Reed and Kevin Hart, have been instrumental in moving this forward many squares down the game board than it has up to now.
And Adam's here too.
And Adam is also here.
He'll be jumping in a few minutes.
He'll be swapped in because and we're creating a vision for this. How far back do you think this went? Is anybody? I say like about 2 years.
About 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah, because I looked back at the. It was that Haven and Measure Quick were going to do a collab together to make some kind of content. It was like #SaveGym. And then at the same time, we also added #BetterHVAC. That's kind of where it started. And then we even made shirts for that, I think.
It was the BetterHVAC system in the TrueTech office.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we have such awful air quality that was bothering Jim.
Yeah. Well, no, it really was. It really was.
True.
Yeah. Yeah. He went from having headaches all the time and kind of like being low on energy because all of the particles and fumes from,
diesel trucks and the
exactly. They were going into his office, and the little mini split that he had in there wasn't actually doing any filtration and no ventilation. And so Haven sponsored that system, and that was how the BetterHVAC hashtag started, and I think that was 4 years ago.
Yeah, and I think at this point it's changed so much. It doesn't really matter where it started or how it started, and I think it probably will continue to evolve from what it is now. But yeah, I'd say in 2021 it became a big push that we wanted to put something together that was greater than just a hashtag, something that was more of a movement, a grassroots movement towards the industry seeing better HVAC be a reality. And there's so much momentum, like you can feel it. We're here at the HVAC Symposium. You can feel the energy and all the passionate people who are trying to make the industry better. And better is in the face of, I think, a lot of forces that are trying to work against better HVAC, right? I think there's a force of apathy too. And that's not really a force, that's a negative energy. So I look at it more like changing the polarity on things.
And even the apathy though is built on kind of and like this erosion over many years of, let's say, the agency to do really good work, where if you're not empowered by your boss, if the homeowners don't actually respect the work that you do because they don't understand that HVAC is super valuable, because they only see you, when it's an emergency, or when you come to do maintenance, then they just think you're trying to sell them something, and then they go Google it to try to get it. So that apathy is, I think it's not just something that has happened by, people wanting it to happen. I think it's been this it's the market forces.
Yeah. And I think it's and the recent things that have happened include launching a website, which Ben was super instrumental in bringing forth, creating a declaration, which the three of us worked on, and creating a pledge to commit to doing something with this movement. And what I think is found most interesting is part of the pledge, and you sign up, it allows you to say, what does better HVAC mean to you? And the responses that I've seen, and you can go see them right now. You can go look at the website. Some of the responses I've seen are like, I've been waiting for this.
Yeah.
And even without much more definition than we've provided, and not a perfect definition, people are eager. I received a LinkedIn message after I posted on LinkedIn, and it was tremendous. It was just, this is the way I run my company, that you're out here sharing that message.
Yeah, this is the mindset I've been building my company on, and it's good to finally see other people sort of getting behind this as not just something I do, but something, many people do, and we can all relate on that level. And I think other than apathy, there is an active force of almost evil out there where you see a lot of consolidation of companies that are putting unethical sales practices in place specifically to optimize for revenue. And I think that does not help the reputation of the industry, trust with homeowners. I don't think it's good for anybody. And we really need a force, and partially a force of education, so that homeowners can find the contractors who are doing good practices, who are using diagnostics and actually identifying the problem and knowing that they've solved the problem properly. We talk about the great heat pump revolt, which could happen, I think, partially as a byproduct of this. And you see all the great training and organization standards and certifications out there. And I think Better HVAC, at least to me, is a way to take all of these disparate puzzle pieces of what the industry is trying to do better and put them together and create a picture out of it so that people can figure out where the resources are.
So I'm wearing a button.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin and Ben are wearing buttons. Okay, so I'm wearing a button. Oh, he is. Okay, right there.
I have a
didn't
shirt,
see it.
man, that's all about Better HVAC.
Right. Okay, all right. So shame is part of this movement. No.
Accountability is part of it.
Yeah. But we had these on our table here at the HVAC Symposium at the TrueTech table. And when someone would say, what is this? And so I'll give my definition or description that's evolved over the last 3 days of what I say it is. I say it's in our position, and maybe mine in particular, I've been blessed to see a lot of resources and a lot of good things happening. And I pivot off of what Kevin said was he's visited contractors that aren't aware of a lot of the good things that are happening and tools and resources that are available. And I think having an index, a hub for information, and that's what we propose to do, is to have, in part, have a hub for information so that it's easy to access and collaborate on a broader scale. So it's sort of taking the spirit of the HVAC Symposium and having it live throughout the year.
And codifying it. Because with this has been something that has emerged from years of Brian building community and creating kind of something that he's passionate about. And thousands of people have come out of the woodwork wanting more, where they haven't found the resources that to be able to help them do their best work. And HVAC School has allowed them to, I guess, work to find those solutions through each other, through collective action, collective knowledge sharing. And Better HVAC is absolute inspiration. I think it's only possible because of what has been built here within HVAC School and at the symposium events, and all the good work that all the volunteers that's a part of it have been doing. But we are at a point in our market where I think there are certain things on the horizon that are moving fairly fast that are going to make it even harder for small HVAC businesses and well-meaning HVAC technicians that want to do good ethical work to be able to continue doing that good ethical work. And so Better HVAC is a bit of a response to say that, you know what, just knowledge sharing is good, but we got to take it to a bit of the next level to codify the values of the community that have naturally emerged, and then to create kind of this urgency and action in response.
And I just want to add that this was born out of a need to see momentum. It's also not intended to be competitive to anything that exists. Like, we did a analysis. Does this exist? Like, is HVAC School it? Is NCI it? Is AC Service Tech it? And the thing is that there's so many great organizations, and this is not about competing with any of them. It's actually about amplifying what they're all doing. It is not a replacement for anything. It is trying to fill a gap that we see. And that gap is partially, we were at the High Performance Hangout at AHR, and you saw this great name of different companies that are all aiming to do high performance HVAC, for example. And, there was a movement that they were talking about, and there was momentum. And so I think this fills the gap of explaining what the movement is. And that's a gap in the industry. And then we can identify specific areas where we can add value and collaborate and merge people's weaknesses and strengths so that we can, for example, target homeowner education.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're going to just do a swap right now so that Adam can jump in.
Okay.
But so what this really means is, like, because I presented this earlier in one of my presentations, where BetterHVAC is it is in the emerging state where we've been trying to source feedback from all of the industry leaders that are here, even before the symposium. And we're getting amazing feedback from a big group of these industry leaders that have said that, well, this still needs a lot of work, because it's for this to actually, it can't fizzle out. It can't just be kind of like a what's the term where it starts up and then just disappears?
Flash in the pan.
Yeah. We can't have that because it has been, other iterations of this has been attempted before, maybe not quite in the same way. And so we're trying to be very deliberate in creating something that is different and that is very much in response to the current market conditions.
Right.
So, and Adam, myself, Kevin, and Bill, I've never been an HVAC tech. I've been in the field doing field work. Kevin has had some electrician work. Spent a lot of time working with contractors over the last couple of years. But a lot of the DNA of this is that the front lines, the small business owners, the building practitioners that want to do building science, that the hypothesis is that they don't have the resources that they need to be able to kind of resist a lot of these things that are either currently in motion in the market or things that are coming down the pipe. And so love to hear from you about what your perspective is, what your take is on what BetterHVAC should be.
Excuse me. I think there's definitely a line in the sand, and it's a distinct line in the sand, right? You look at a lot of the, this symposium here, and it's a big group. It's a community. This is a community, and everyone's a part of it, right? But then there's other communities within the HVAC realm, right? And they're very different. There's very sales oriented things like you were talking about before, where it's only looking at numbers. You're not focusing on anything else. And I have worked with technicians that have, I don't want to name any names, but they've dealt with some of these bigger sales organizations, and their company training is strictly sales. That's it. There's no technical training whatsoever. And I run into, on a daily basis, serious comfort complaints, and they are challenging to fix. And I would say that most people are probably not qualified to even start the process of trying to address it. So I think education is number one, and then people actually making a commitment to try to make a change and make a difference.
And I want to get from your perspective, because if education is number one, there's HVAC Excellence, there's NCI, there is HVAC School, there is all the distributors that have their own training. There are manufacturers that provide training. There's a massive amount of YouTube and other materials out there for education. And so is that problem not being solved by all those other avenues?
I don't think it is. And I'm not saying there's a problem necessarily with any one organization, right? And I think they all have their place, and they all do, there's great individuals that work for every one of the organizations that you named before. And they're all doing their part, but everyone needs a louder voice. Everyone needs to be heard. And I think everyone needs to work together to make a difference.
And in harmony.
Right.
Because that's actually been trying to get some harmony at the beginning of this, but I think that the joint efforts of trying to choose hey, with all there's a lot of big things happening. Kimberly was up on stage for the electrification panel, and I could feel the desperation coming from her as she was up on stage, because she has seen a certain side of the market. She has insights into stuff that's going on that it's not being solved. And it seems that a lot of other people don't understand the scale of response that's required. And so, like, I could kind of feel her heart breaking a little bit by this not being understood, this urgency that's required to be able to overcome some of these challenges. And to me, that is one of the big pieces, because everybody that's doing good work here, it is doing good incremental work in their field of expertise, which in a standard market, that's exactly what you should be doing.
But you need to string these all together in your own way, what you need for the work that you're doing. I'll just relate a little personal story. Back, I think it was around the time of the first HVAC symposium. Just before that, my sister, who lives alone by herself in Wichita, Kansas, she said, "Hey, something's wrong with my furnace. You're in HVAC. Who do you know? Can you send me to someone?" I'm like, "I really don't know how I could look somebody up, but I really don't know what I'm doing when I do that." So I had this idea of the Responsible Contractor Network, and I wrote up not quite a manifesto, but maybe a dozen requirements. Let's say like some bullet points, and then actually floated the idea at the first HVAC symposium, and didn't do much with it. Just sort of like ran out of steam. And then fast forward to sometime in 2022, and I see Corporate Lunsford has a page on his homediagnosis.tv site about contractors who use science, basically, who do load calculations, who do blower door tests to test air leakage, follow certain kind of standards and protocols. And I was like, wow, that's exactly what I was thinking. So that's where the harmony struck for me. And then as I looked down the list, I was looking for Kansas, see if I could help my sister out. She did find someone that did work out for her, by the way. As I look down through the list, I see someone from Pittsburgh, and I live in Pittsburgh. And I didn't know this person. So there's literally somebody in my backyard, lived in my old neighborhood, who pledged that. And I got to meet him, interview him on my podcast. And it's like, there's a lot of people out there like this that need to be connected.
Yeah. And so from your perspective, Adam, what are some of the actions that could be a part of this? Because we have a lot of people that agree that action is required, but then as we've gotten feedback from some very smart people, okay, what? Because that's always the hardest part.
Right.
Because we're at the stage where momentum is building, and now we're going to be hitting a window within the next couple of weeks where we have to decide on what kind of action should be taken.
Right. And
even if it's that we don't have enough information, then maybe the action is just doing more research to get to a point where we have certainty.
Even if it's imperfect, action is important. Yeah. I'm going to throw something in. He asked you the question, but I'm going to cut you off.
Right.
But just a second, so hold the thought. I think a way of finding a common ground amongst the people that have made the pledge, especially with contractors and technicians, is challenges you've faced, challenges you've solved, and challenges that remain open. And I'm optimistic that a lot of the open challenges are some of the solved challenges of others. And it's in sharing that kind of information that could provide perhaps immediate impact and benefit.
Nice. I would say, like, biggest thing for me is, I was on your podcast, I don't know, 6 months or so ago, and I talked a little bit about like my journey and like how I wanted to give back and try to help the trade. That was a big deal, and recently I have been trying to help out HVAC school, writing a lot of articles, doing a little social media in that. And like my articles, I didn't know what to write about at first, but then it was like things started coming to me just by looking at social media, and it was like kind of like a responsive type deal. And I know everyone probably is not comfortable writing, or they don't have the platform to write or something, but everyone can do something. There's somebody that works in their company that they understand a subject matter better than the person they work with, and they could help them out. I mean, high tide rises all ships, right? And that's the whole thing. And I think if everyone looks at things in a responsive way, and when they see a need, give a helping hand and just try to do what you can. That's kind of the action item, I would say.
And also, like as you said, you've been on a journey to get to where you are. And where did that, like, we don't have to, you covered it in your podcast, Bill, but that journey, you started somewhere where, like, what did that look like? What did you look like when that journey started?
I didn't know where I was going. And honestly, I still am not 100% sure where I'm headed. I just know that I'm like ready to go and I'm on my way. Right.
And dissatisfied?
I mean, I'm pretty happy. Like if you would, if I would go back and talk to myself and say explain where I'm at today to myself 10 years ago, there's no way I would ever imagine, I would have been able to accomplish what I have professionally and, socially. I think it's a big thing too. I know social media is like a weird type thing, but I think it's like a necessary evil almost because a lot of people learn from social media. It's a big deal. I have made so many great connections and I've met you. I've met, all three of you in this room and countless others, everyone here at the symposium. And these connections, you do this networking thing and you're able to learn and grow.
And that was actually some of the inspiration behind this idea of like intentional communities of practice. Because you use the term social media as a necessary evil. I'd interpret that as being that there's a whole bunch of things like the platforms are owned by big companies that kind of want you to share certain things, behave a certain way. And maybe there are some behaviors that our society has adopted that has maybe devolved a little bit, but we are naturally very social beings and we want to help each other. We want to we thrive on sharing knowledge with each other. The act of being in social isolation is one of the worst tortures that you can do to somebody. And so the communities of practice is so important, especially for a trade and a trade that's in trouble. HVAC school has that, except that the reason why there's a website that has tools is because those social communities are like, we don't have control over the features that they have. And so through BetterHVAC, just one of the many pieces is to try to be okay, what types of resource formats, what types of tools, like maybe an event finder where we have an index of every single event throughout the industry across the entire continent that everybody can submit to. It's really easy to find and index and filter. And everybody who's an HVAC professional is able to access it and see, just being like, oh, I had no idea that the distributor was offering IAQ training in the next town over. So things like that, about just having that, and that's a part of the pledge, is to have that social obligation, or to have that social accountability of if you see something that's going to help somebody else, then just take a second and be like, if it were me looking for this problem that I'm going to solve right now, maybe I can help solve it for somebody else, which HVAC school does that. A lot of the creators do that. But then on social media, that kind of just disappears into the blackness of social media without being indexed and organized and prioritized and moderated.
Right. And Kevin, Ben, and I spent some time discussing how we would present this and streamlined it into, I like to think, three main thoughts for now, because it's still in evolution. And that would be to learn continuously, to do ethically, and to share openly. And that really resonated strongly with me. I think it has with other people. And we feel that that's a good place to start.
Right. Yeah, I think for the longest time, coming up in residential HVAC, you kind of notice that a lot of knowledge is behind a skill wall, I guess I would call it. You know what I mean? People that have been in the trade for a long time they like hold on to and they guard their knowledge a lot of times, when that really is not helping anyone. It's not helping themselves. They're not, they would have an easier life and an easier time if they shared what they knew.
And yeah, like the gatekeeping is sometimes just a sign of, some people that have been through a lot of hardship and they don't really know how to, I guess, reconcile the struggle that they've been through. And then to be able to know that that if they had that help that they could give to that person, then the cycle could be, they could cut that cycle off. And like when you talk about that guarding, it's not in relation to all of the really great organizations where you have to pay for training, because like to be able to do high quality training and like some of those high quality materials, you have to have a business model around it. Like we're not living in a utopia where we just can all do whatever we want and then magically all the resources are given to us. So and yeah, it's not meant, there is no intention, as Kevin had said, no intention to replace any of the tools out there, but it is to lower that barrier of entry to all those people that are looking for those solutions that have been previously solved. And the other part of it is really trying to take action. So one of the next things that we want to do with this is that we're inviting everybody to take the pledge, to be able to read the declaration, take the pledge, and kind of go through the materials. Even on the website, we have a list of features that we're planning to roll out, like that events kind of list, like the contractor finder for homeowners, maybe even a blog for homeowners, where people like Adam can not only write an article, but then can collaborate with 15 other people from all over to kind of like give edits and to refine it. And maybe even find some people that like myself, Kevin, and Bill might know that have like great copywriting experience that then can tailor it to the audience in such a way that will really resonate and act as like one of the top resources in the country for being able to solve a homeowner's problems. And so that's like, to me, it's to be able to overcome all of those like just generic people that are throwing information out on the internet to make super high quality stuff together. But back to the features and the actions that we want to take over the next couple of weeks. We want to be planning some more conversations. We want to start having some, let's say, Zoom sessions, possibly weekly, on being able to give, on a time that works for most people. Everybody that signed the pledge is going to be contacted to say that, hey, we're in the process of, scheduling a Zoom meeting. Let's get crowdsource the times at work, schedule them. We get together, we start having talks. Maybe if it's a big group, we start doing breakout rooms, and we really start diving into being like, what does this mean to me? What are the problems that that I've solved before that are somebody else might have problems with? And then also, what are the bigger problems in the industry that we might all come to a conclusion in that all together we can make a bigger difference. So it's not just helping somebody solve a technical issue. Like I'm seeing in the YouTube comments, a couple of people are putting in like just questions about refrigerant or like some sort of like things related to technical stuff.
Right.
And there's a huge amount of people that are always looking for those answers. But this isn't just about, this is not that that is what HVAC school is for, is to be able to facilitate that open kind of dialogue for like that technical answers. But this type of collective action for bigger impact is a little bit different. And it's not really been, I haven't seen another model like it, like we've said. And so for people that want to become a part of this, it's going to be like, you sign the pledge. There's literally 3 questions at the end that says, I promise to do something over the next 7 days. I promise to do something over the next 30 days, and then something over the next 90 days. And so like you are now promising to take action. And so that's what we want the people that are like really committed to this, is that we're going to get to a point where we can say that, hey, we're all going to figure out what those things are that could have a bigger impact if we had enough people working together to solve them.
Mm-hmm. Any other interesting comments in the chat?
Let's see. a couple of people that are saying items like this about how a lot of it's based on competition. Like, so that's probably to your point on the guarding. So what would you have to say in response to, maybe competition with other local technicians, that being something?
So I actually try to give a hand whenever I can. Our office is out of Illinois, and we have an HVAC company right next door to us. Their front door is 2 feet to the right of our front door, right? And they always have new young technicians coming in, and I would say they're probably our competition, right? But they come to us for help and advice in certain situations, and I give it freely, because I believe if you do good work, there's plenty of work to go around for everybody. And I would rather compete with somebody who's on my level, so it's a fair playing field, than try to, have competition that's, playing dirty, if you will, or, fighting the low, trying to, pick the low hanging fruit. You know what I mean?
So there's 2 examples of that that I've encountered. One was a gentleman named Alan Givens with Parish Services in Manassas, Virginia. And Jim Bergman and I were both working for Testo at the time, and he invited Jim in to train his team on how to use some advanced test equipment. He also invited in 5 of his competitors, but he paid for Jim to come in and wanted, because it was the things he was presenting to his customers were just so far out of the matrix that they didn't believe anything about what he was saying. So he used it as a form of customer education so that his competitors were talking about the same things he was talking about. And Chad Simpson is doing that now with Simpson Salute and the Fast Track Lab in Ohio. He's doing the same thing where he's training anyone that'll come to the lab.
And there's something else that I'm going to talk about, which I think it's okay to talk about because we talked about it in the live stream with Brian the other day, yesterday, which is related to the trend where a lot of people that are attracted to the HVAC school are a part of smaller companies that have refused to sell out to private equity and large consolidation, groups, because what happens in those situations is that the work stops being about the community. It stops being about the homeowner, and it stops being about the work. It stops being about the technical work. It stops being about the outcomes that are related to what everybody wants here.
Could I add often?
Often, yes.
Okay.
It's
absolutes
yes.
are really hard in the world.
I agree. There's a kind of the term that I use where it's like the extraction, the values of a body, like where if you have an entity where their values are to take resources out of an ecosystem and give them to somebody else, then now when you have a small company and that small company has local technicians and that it is local ownership, then a lot of the money and the care and the resources all cycle through that local community. It's a little bit meta, but it has to do with most local or most healthy communities have a very resilient local ecosystem. And you start seeing problems when the Walmartification of an industry happens, when there's basically all of those local smaller businesses get edged out by this kind of consolidation, because now it is no longer about being able to make that decision to say that I'm going to help out my competition. I'm going to help out this person next door because they need it. Because that's how we've lived for thousands of years, was that we lived in proximity to each other. We had to offer, we needed to help out the person next to us, because if we didn't do it today, then when we need help, we won't get help. And so that's an interesting take that I believe needs to be examined as a part of this, because that whole kind of consolidation is just gonna, the attempts for massive consolidation just keeps on growing. So something that I see is important to just to talk about as a part of this. But yeah, so the actions could be like, there could be quite a lot of variety to the action too. And a lot of it is about being strategic, where one of the conversations I had was talking about somebody that was passionate about, teaching in trade school. And they said that, like, all these instructors in our local trade school are so old, they don't really know what they're doing. And I'm just going to go in and I'm going to become an instructor. And it's like, that will have some impact, but also but if, let's say, as a community, we'd be able to take step backs and try to look at systemic issues. And so to some of the people in the comments, it's not about like just being like, okay, what's the technical, trade related skill that just people don't know enough about, and then we focus on those technical skills. It's a step above. It is systemic issues that Better HVAC, I think, is about. That's what it is to me. And again, we're all still in the process of becoming, so this is not the guarantee of what it is. It's just, to me, the systemic issues are what's not being solved. And
forming, storming, norming, transforming.
Yeah, we're in the forming stage. But back to that trade school analogy, is to take that step back, maybe a couple of people having a conversation, just being like, well, why is that trade school suffering from that kind of that current paradigm where they have all of these old instructors? Like, instead of assuming that it's just because like the instructors are making decisions to be bad, it's like, let's have a conversation. I'm going to go to that trade school and I'm going to start talking to some of the people that are in charge of the program, that are in charge of the curriculum, that, to say that, okay, what's your struggle? Like, we've noticed that, like, when I try to hire out of your trade school, like, because you're in charge, like the instructors aren't really in charge of making the decisions that make the trade school run and make the curriculum run. They're given some authority in what's taught, but a lot of the outcomes is still made a step above. And so that's what I talk about. Like, that's an example of the systemic sort of approach of going to look beyond just that obvious symptom, and then go above and be like, okay, maybe it's because there's this lack of awareness that there's all this new technology and changes. And so that administrator who literally, they decide what kind of, the high level curriculum items are going to be, they just had no idea that there was all these changes. And then they're the ones that need to be changed. And then all of a sudden that cascades down. So like, there's going to be many examples like that, where we talk all the time about we don't want to treat the symptoms. We want to actually treat the problem. And I think that this is just a meta version of that, where there are so many problems that, because we're very much just like solvers, if you're doing technical work all the day, you're very good at solving. And so as a group, being able to take that step above and say like, okay, maybe that's not the actual problem that needs to be solved. Let's go to the next level up and ask why. So Adam or Bill, do you have any other examples of like being able to take that out of the box thinking to go to examine what could be another area that people could kind of see themselves taking that kind of action?
I like to think that examples provide a lot of confidence to make change. So I think by presenting a lot of examples of what we think is better, what individuals, members, the organization think are better to others, and let people adopt it at their own pace.
Right. I think I like your point, and I think that it could have a lot of different faces, and it depends on the individual that's involved that wants to, that wants to make his mark or his difference, his or her difference, right? So it could be you make a YouTube video because somebody in your company is struggling, and then share it online. You could make a post on Facebook. You could do like I do and write an article. You could volunteer at maybe a local trade school. Maybe you could have a talk with a high school, a couple seniors in high school if they have like a career day type deal. There's a lot of things you could do. There's a lot of aspects that can help, maybe not you directly, but your local community and the HVAC community as a whole.
Yeah. And another one just that came to mind, which can actually be quite beneficial, is the local news program needs experts that to be able, they need to have, like, what they do is that to source experts for, let's say, whether it's radio or TV, they often create a Rolodex of trusted contacts. And so if you were to kind of call them up and be like, hey, I have experience, like I'm an experienced, HVAC, company owner, and I practice building science and stuff like that. So anytime that you guys have let's say a story related to this, add me as a source that you can contact. Mm-hmm. And then because they have databases, they have contact databases that then when a new news story comes up, then they just go to look to be like, okay, who do I contact? And so then if, let's say that's, everybody who signs the Better HVAC pledge just starts doing that as one of their, pieces of action, then all over the country now you have ethical practitioners that have injected themselves into the attention of their local communities.
And beyond just saying, do it, here's how I did it.
Yeah.
Because there may be some nuance to it and the approach. And you don't have to do it from all of this. You shouldn't have to do it from the ground up. That's the other idea is that there's a path or a recipe you can vary from, but there's something you can use to begin to act. Because it's most important thing to do is to act.
Yeah. So if you want to act, there's a website.
Yeah.
And that website is scrolling. Let me see if I can follow this as it moves. There you go. Scrolling along the bottom of the screen. BetterHVAC.org. It's just in its beginning phase. So go to the website, sign the pledge, and share it with your network so that other people can kind of get exposed to it. You tell them what Better HVAC means to you.
And look to see, there's a map there, thank you, Ben, that shows who signed or shows the locales of the individuals that signed. And you can also read their little snippets of who they are and what it means to them and see if that resonates with you before you sign. Mm-hmm. We're not just telling you to sign.
Yeah, read the declaration because it is unethical of us to be like, hey, just do this because Bill Spohn and other people said so. But yeah, we're getting folks from all over. So we do have folks in Canada, folks in the US. We're not indexing in, other like the UK or anything right now because I'm not familiar with anything outside of this continent.
Right.
I know the Canadian and the US market to some degree, but that's it. All right.
Okay.
Well, everyone, just want to say, Bill, really appreciate all of your help and support on this. Adam, awesome for jumping on board and giving us help. And Kevin, same thing. Since the beginning, the brainstorming that we've always been doing, and can't wait to bring in all of these other great people that are interested in just making this something that they believe in and can take action in.
Do you want to reference the harmonization or lack thereof? Why that was brought up? Go ahead.
People want to. No, you do it. It was your idea.
Ben shared some notes beforehand in Slack and said, let's talk about singing the pledge. He just transposed the G in the end. That's all. That is all.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.